step in the first couple of drives. I think be cool under pressure. Couple, bad snaps, handle them, make plays. He wasn't trying to run first, but when it was an opportunity, he played within the pocket, but then used his athleticism. I thought he showed that he could really throw with accuracy down the field. He's someone that he's so God gifted, and he's so athletic, and I've seen that from day one. And when he walked on campus, you're like, dang, this dude's a monster. And I just think that he's got so much upside, and what a test week 2, right? Against what I would say is I really believe Texas is a top 10 team. I think you look at them at the line of scrimmage, you look at all the recruits they've brought in, you look at the transfers, you look at their Sark and what he's doing. They're with Quinn. I think Quinn is one of the better quarterbacks in the country, and so it's a really good test for Bama week 2, and it'll be a good one.
You're kind of the perfect guy to ask when it comes to a quarterback whose physicality can kind of permeate the team. When a guy like Milroe is out there running over linebackers, do you think it kind of seeps in throughout the entire team defensively too?
Yes.
What kind of edge can that give you?
I think it can give a team a massive edge at times. It's important to know those times. It's maybe when the team doesn't have a little momentum, or maybe gets a little complacent, and all of a sudden you could see Jalen take it and go deliver a blow, and that gives a spark to the entire team. So much of this game is based on momentum and confidence, and when you're able to play with momentum and play with confidence, you play at a different level. And I think a quarterback that can do that at times can provide that spark. I also think a quarterback that maybe is not as mobile or can't bring that physicality, but they can play tough in the pocket, like Quinn did last week against Rice. I mean, he took some shots and got right back up. That can also do it to a team. And so I think for both of these guys, playing with that, for Quinn on the road in an environment like this, for Jalen, stepping in behind Bryce, I think both of them can bring that, and it'll be important because it will be back and forth.
How much can we take away from the Texas' offensive line performance against Rice? They gave up a lot of pressures, and Hickman.
They did.
How much do you think that'll carry over into this weekend's matchup?
Well, I think it totally how a game's played. I think the style of play. I think you'll see Sark with a lot of really good game plan stuff. I think they kept a lot of it out last week. I do think you'll see some 7-8 man protection. He's loved that for 3 or 4 years now. He's really good at it. I think you'll see a lot of 2 receivers to a side. You'll see Xavier Worthy motion down because they want to get him off of the ball so he can have free releases, because he's really hard to cover on that, and be able to create 7-8 man protections, throw the ball down the field. I think he's one of the best at game planning that. So I think that'll be really fun to be able to watch the pressures versus that, the run pressures, when they know that's going to be the formation versus, trying to get pressure on the quarterback versus playing maybe split safety over the top of some of these explosive Texas receivers. So I'm excited to kind of see that mental matchup between, Sark and Saban per se.
Tim, do you feel like there's a different buzz with this Alabama team this season, just knowing some people picking other teams to win the West?
I don't know when there hasn't been a buzz, in the last 15 years for Alabama. So I don't know if it's that there's more of a buzz. I think it's maybe a little different this year because maybe not as many people predicted Alabama to be successful. But in my opinion, when you pick against Saban, that's not a good bet. And I feel like it's a team with the chip on their shoulder, and I'm excited to see this weekend because this is a great opportunity against a really good team.
Everyone has seen what this place has become post-Saban, but when you were going through your recruitment, this wasn't what it is now. What attracted you to Alabama where you had them in their final 2?
Well, it wasn't – sorry. It wasn't maybe the success that they've had in the last 15 years, but it was the same passion and tradition was here. And that's contagious. The love for their team was here. I mean, it was the environment. I mean, that's one of the things that drew me to it. It's the people. It's how much they care. I think if anybody's watched me play, they know that I care a lot about it. And Alabama's seen that too many times because they saw me get emotional against them. So, I just think that's something that's contagious about this place is. Doesn't matter from what area the fans are coming from. When they show up here, they care a lot about their team, and that's just contagious.
Do you feel any responsibility, or do you realize maybe the connection between yourself and Alabama after firing Mike Shula and Nick Saban coming here? Maybe what could have been if you had been here in 2006?
Oh, what a hard question. Do I take responsibility? That's so tough. You know what? I think why that was so hard was just because I had just so much respect for Coach Shula, his family, all the Dave Rader, the entire coaching staff. I was close with all those guys. Yeah, I think it was honestly very hard. I felt like I let a lot of people down, and that made it very difficult.
The dynasty, had you come here, maybe Nick Saban wasn't here.
Maybe, but I still think when you say responsibility, I do for some of those people, you know. I think, you know, what Saban's done is really second to none. And I know people say that, but I mean, I really believe it. It's incredible to see what he's done to sustain that success. It's hard. It's hard to stay at the top. Everybody's gunning for you. To replace coach after coach after coach, to continue to be at the top of the mountain. It's hard to do in any profession, and what he's done is just, it really is special.
Last question.
Obviously, Sark can't reinvent the game of football, but knowing much of the offense that Saban has already run, do you think he has what it takes to throw him off guard?
I think Sark is one of the best offensive minds in the game. And he's got a quarterback that has experience and a lot of arm talent in Quinn. And I think that gives him the ability to do a lot of really exciting things tomorrow. And I think you'll see some game plan stuff. And I think they're going to win some of the matchups. And I think Alabama will win some of the matchups. And I think really probably one of the most intriguing things to me about the game is, can they protect Quinn enough, and can he have time in the pocket? And that's going to be a game plan battle. That's going to be a defensive line. If I'm Alabama, I'm putting on my defensive line saying, hey, this is your game. You know, if their defensive line dominates, I think it makes it a lot easier road for Bama to get a W. And I think there's going to be awesome game plans going back and forth. And I also think the game will come down to adjustments as well.
Thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
God
Tim.
bless.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Alrighty. What's up? You're no stranger to Tuscaloosa. You've been here plenty of times, but can you just talk about the buzz from a Friday leading into a Saturday when Alabama's got a massive game against a team like Texas?
It's one of our favorite places. I don't know the numbers, but I think we've been here as much, if not more, than anywhere else in the country. So I love coming here. I love Coach Saban's program. When it's a big game, whenever these Alabama fans feel threatened, it just adds to the spice. It adds to the anticipation. And I think anytime you bring in a huge brand like Texas, and especially the way the game went last year, it definitely, there's just a different feeling. This is our first time on campus this year. We were in Charlotte last week for the North Carolina-South Carolina, kind of a neutral site game. So our first time being back on campus, my 28th year on College Game Day, and never gets old, you know, just being around it and feeling the energy of the campus.
What did you see from Alabama in week 1 against Middle?
You know, I saw a defense that, you know, I think a lot of people are not me. I picked them to win the national championship, but there are a lot of people questioning how good they can be, especially without guys like Will Anderson, Brian Branch, and I think they lost 7 of their top 8 tacklers. So there's some questions, but man, I think one thing that people that don't follow Bama closely understand is some of these guys that have been in more of a backup role would come in a sub package, now are taking on primary roles, and they've waited their time, and they kind of have an edge to them, and there's an energy to that defense, at least week 1, against an inferior opponent. This is the game, obviously, we find out how good they are, but that stood out to me, the way they were flying around. Kevin Steele, new DC. And then, of course, it's Jalen Milroe. I mean, everybody wondered who would win that job. Jalen looked great, you know, making plays. Sometimes that one snap went over his head and he turned it into a touchdown. He has so much athletic ability, so that stood out. But this can be a different battle. I mean, Texas is SEC defensive lineman, got one of the best middle linebackers in the country in Jalen Ford. So this is, again, the week we really find out what this offense is about with a new offensive coordinator and Tommy Rees and this quarterback and Jalen Milroe.
Did you think it was going to be Milroe when you made that pick, and then now that you've seen him play a game, that you feel a little bit better about your pick? Or
Yeah, to me, respectful to all the players on the field. There are a lot of people that are like laughing that I picked Alabama to win the national championship, but I'm only going by history. I mean, you could have not told me who's on the roster, and as long as the guy that is the head coach is still the head coach, I would have picked Alabama. Because if you go back and look from 2009, their first year that he won the championship, and then just track them, it's very rare for them to go a couple years and then not win it. So I just feel like the programs do. So knowing that, I even heard some of their quotes, like they feel very disrespected. I love hearing that. They have a chip on their shoulder. They're angry. No one's giving them any credit. I'm like, yes, yeah. I mean, I love to hear that. And I was kind of banking on, is these players feel disrespected because of having back-to-back years without winning at all. So I think they're a bit, by Alabama standards, they're a bit of an underdog. You take Bryce Young away, you take Will Anderson away. I think a lot of people are like, yeah, well, Georgia's the new bar in college football. I just think that doesn't sit well with Alabama. And I'm kind of betting on that's the team that's going to kind of show up with a bit of a chip on their shoulder every single week. But yeah, seeing him play, that was exciting to see. I still looking forward to seeing, for them to do what they want to do, they're going to have to be able to throw the ball consistently against really good opponents in some really tough environments. So this will be a great week just to kind of see how far along they are with their passing game, because they're going to have to make plays through the air this week.
Kurt, you mentioned Alabama fans feeling threatened. Is that a legitimate feeling, or is that manufactured just because of the numbers in the matchup, the top 10 matchup?
No, I think they, of course, manufacture some of that, like Georgia did. Georgia won it all 2 years ago when they beat Bama. Then they came back and they were preseason, whatever they were, 1 or 2. But if you listen to Nolan Smith and those players, they're like, nobody believes. It's like everyone had you in the top 2 or 3 all year. So it's amazing how you can manipulate an 18 to 22-year-old player. And I'll tell you, there's power in getting an entire group to get mad. An angry football team in college football is a dangerous team. And so I think some of it's manufactured, but I think some of it is real. You know, all you got to do is go on Twitter or listen to what people say. You don't have to go very far to get motivated. And there aren't a ton of people that are picking them to win the national championship. So again, I think the guys that think about being a player that's had to sit there, like a Braswell or some of these guys that have had to wait their turn, and now they get to be that team. And I've even heard people, I think Reese or somebody brought it up, like if you look at Texas's roster, you look at Alabama's roster, people are saying that there's more NFL players on the Texas roster than the Alabama roster. So if I'm an Alabama player, I'm sure you hear that. And again, I think that adds to your fuel.
BRYANT-DENNY isn't put up with like Tiger Stadium and Journey when it comes to intimidating places. You've been all around the country at these stadiums for a big Alabama night game like we're going to get tomorrow night. Do you think BRYANT-DENNY is almost an underrated atmosphere?
I'd say, first of all, whoever's in charge of game ops at Alabama, as a guy, I talked about this last year when I did their game. I think it was against Mississippi State. Whoever's in charge of game ops, whoever they hire to do that, and with the lasers and the DJ, I'm telling you right now, I travel to every stadium in this new world of you better have Wi-Fi in the stadium and all that stuff. Alabama is at a different level. So you guys should report whoever that person is deserves a raise because they are outstanding. The DJ, I mean, the TV timeouts are almost as exciting as the game. So I'm all in on the atmosphere. I would have looked at that before the game ops adjustment and said they're a spoiled fan base. If they're playing LSU, it's an A. If they're playing Mississippi State or Arkansas, it's a C+. That's my, as a guy who travels all over the country, that's my interpretation of what I've seen in the past from Alabama. Now Texas is coming to town, all that hype's coming to town, it'll be an A. You know, Ohio State's very similar. If Ohio State has Michigan in town or Penn State, they're as good as there is. If it's Northwestern or Minnesota or Purdue, it becomes a reactive crowd. Sack, crowd goes crazy. Touchdown, crowd goes crazy. But they're not creating the sack. They're not creating the interception. That's a proactive, up on your feet every time the defense is on the field. I think it'll be more like that this game than it probably has been in quite some time. Hope that makes sense.
Talk about players and fans. Last one, guys. Feeling disrespected. As someone who talks to Nick Saban, do you think he feels disrespected, or is it just a fuel to get back to the top for him?
I don't think he feels disrespected. I think a lot of people made a big deal that David Pollack made a comment last year on the set with Coach there that, hey, Georgia's, after they won, Georgia's the new bar. I mean, Georgia won back-to-back championships. I don't think that was anything that he was taking a shot the way it was being portrayed in social media at all. And I think Coach was just kind of nodding his head like, what can you say? They won two straight championships. But I think as a competitor, he's as big a competitor as anybody, on that team, players or coaches. He part of the reason he keeps coming back is he loves that energy. He loves being challenged. He loves trying to climb the mountain and win the championship. So I don't necessarily think that he feels that, he's using it in any way. I just think it's the way he's wired every single year, every single moment of his life. You guys are around him. The guy's ultra competitive. You guys have a great weekend.
Thank you very much.
All right. See you guys.
I would go stand right.
Hey Roman, what have you seen from this Alabama team after week 1? I know it's Middle Tennessee, but what were your observations from Alabama week 1?
I thought they played fast on defense. They created some turnovers, which I thought they struggled with last year. Well, I didn't think it. They struggled with last year. And so that was a positive. On the offensive side, I thought the quarterback really stood out. I thought he handled the situations well. I thought he completed passes down the field. And so he looked better. He looked comfortable. And for me, it was all about the optics of the operation. And for me, it checked a lot of those boxes. I would still like to see Alabama get their run game going a little bit more effectively, especially within the running backs that they have and that they're using so far. But all these things, it's all a process of growth. You got to understand that as well. But the success that they had downfield throwing the football allows people to really take a step back and say, okay, this Alabama team will be okay, because the biggest question mark going into it was the quarterback. And the quarterback was probably the star of the offense last week.
As an Alabama guy, to be back here, kind of the game week buzz, Fridays, a lot of buzz around campus, and obviously leading tomorrow. How cool is it for you to be able to come back here as an analyst and get to cover games like this?
Well, it's personally, man, it's really cool because I guess when I would be on the campus and when I was playing, it was all about, looking at the newspaper, see if my name's in it or something, right? And so now you fast forward and, now I'm just here to try and root for these guys and just being a part of this atmosphere, having a big game, another big university like Texas come in and be on this campus and have game day here, having the SEC Nation here. It really just means so much more. And to see the true growth of this university since I've left as well, and all the success Nick and this Alabama team has had, it's just, it's special to me. And it really feels good to be a part of this university. Looking back on it, it was the right decision. And you don't always get to look back on your life and say, I made the right decision, especially in hard times for an 18-year-old kid. But choosing this school over the other school options that I had, it was the right decision. And we didn't always win a lot of games. And you look back on it and you wish it was this, it could have been that. But now that I'm all done with it and said, it still got me to where I wanted to get to. And now looking back on it, it was the best situation, because now everybody, the moment I say, I played football at Alabama, it's like, oh, you were at Alabama. I was like, we weren't what they are now. But it's still, to say that you played football at the University of Alabama still means something to so many people. And so for that, I'm very, truly thankful for it. And this is just another good time I get to see the student body, everybody all out here, and everybody's on edge and buzzing. And everybody's gonna make a lot of money on the weekend with all the bars.
Roman, you talk about the growth. How does the game day atmosphere compare to 2005 when you guys were playing LSU?
We lost that game, so it kind of sucked. But I guess I can't wait to see it. I'm gonna be up rolling around on my scooter tomorrow, kind of early, seeing how the game day action's going, who's up, who's getting it going. It'll be fun. These games are the ones that people talk about. These are the ones that you remember when you get out of school. You're like, man, you remember game day, you remember this moment. This is what you come here for. These are why you go to the big schools with the big rivalries in the SEC or whatever these big conferences are. And this is what it's all about. This is why you come to school like Alabama, because you want to play in this game. And if you shine in this game, you're going to be the name that people talk about nationally. You're going to be the one that's going to get your name called to go play on Sundays. And so It's an opportunity. I think the biggest thing is it's an opportunity for both of these schools, for both of these teams. For Alabama to say, hey, we are still Alabama. This is the first time in many years where Alabama wasn't just picked to just win the West and win the SEC. Other people picked other teams. So now this is an opportunity for Alabama to say, no, we're still that team. And it's an opportunity for Texas as well, where last year they feel like they had a chance to beat Alabama. They did not. And everybody said that they're picked to win the Big 12. And they got to go out there and prove it at some point. And this is another opportunity for Texas as well to go out there and say, actually, we are as good as what everybody thinks we can be. And we're coming into the SEC. This is just a moment before it really going to happen and what we're going to be able to do in the SEC full time.
Roman, do you feel like Alabama likes when people doubt them or maybe try to pick the other team that they're playing?
For sure. You know that. I mean, Nick calls it reverse rat poison. He loves it. It's something that you don't get all the time. And it's almost like, when I give my kids Skittles, they don't get them all the time, so when they get them, they love them. And, when you don't get those things all the time, when everybody's always praising you, you're just trying to keep everybody humble. And then when all of a sudden somebody doubts you, you're like, man, this is it. This fuels my fire. I mean, the doubters and the negativity fueled my whole football career. And so always been able to turn the doubt and the negativity into something that you use to really push you forward and say, whether they said it or not, the Michael Jordan in the 30 for 30, the last dance. I mean, he hated everybody at times, and nobody said any of those things. He was just making it up in his mind. But that's what you do. That's what the great ones do. They find ways to get an edge. And if this is Alabama's edge, it's going to be a great one. I think they should use it and let this thing burn. And all the naysayers, I'm with it. I'm completely with it.
When teams have beaten Alabama in this stadium in the past, they've had exceptional quarterback play. Do you think
Correct.
Quinn Ewers is going to be good enough to come in here and beat Alabama?
I think he is good enough to do it, but it's going to be, for me, it's going to come out of these things. Alabama has to recognize, because it's not just Quinn Ewers. It's recognize what Steve Sarkisian wants to do within this offense and how they're going to try and execute versus you. Now, the best thing about playing Texas last year is you have tape on what they tried to do against you last year. That's why in the NFL, it's really hard to beat teams 2 and 3 times. It's just hard because we get film on you, we know exactly what you're going to do, and now we're going to prepare for those things. So understanding, when you get an earned first down, not P and 10. P and 10 is possession and 10. I'm going to go real football jargon for you guys right now.
Give it to us.
All right, P and 10, that's possession and 10. You just get the ball, first possession, first and 10. That's fine. They're not going to do anything. When they earn first down within the 45-yard line to the other 40-yard line going in, earn first down, it's shot zone. First and 10, second and 10, second and 8. They're going to take a shot. Understand that. Play coverage. Understand where Xavier Worthy is in the different positions because that is the guy that they want to get the ball to down the field. Whether they motion him into a stacked slot position to make you back off. Understand where you're going to press him at. There's no reason to press him inside out. You should press him outside in. All these little things like this, and understand how they're going to build these formations to get these guys open, that matters too. And when your guy's blocking, go get the quarterback because you can't sit back there. They're not running 10-yard routes. They're running 35-yard routes. So you're not going to help anywhere covering grass. Go get the quarterback, speed up the timing. Quinn Ewers is not the same type of quarterback when he's off the spot. Spot meaning 3 yards right behind the center. That's the sweet spot that they try and build a pocket around. And that's where their whole offense is won or lost. So understand those things and don't let them do that. If you do not if you're not friendly to Texas's offense, you got a real good chance to make this ugly for them tomorrow.
The Texas offensive line struggled against Rice last week. How do you think that's going to translate into this weekend's game?
I think Sark did a really good job of, sometimes you just don't come out and play your best game early. And that's another one I talked about, opportunity for Texas to go out there and say, okay, this is who we really are. Because at some point, I'm tired of hearing everybody tell me how good Texas is and what they're going to be. At some point, you got to go out there and prove it and show it. And this is going to be the opportunity for them to do that. Last week was last week. Rice did a couple different things, but are you trying to hide stuff because you got Alabama the next week? Because what they did against Alabama last year in the first 15 plays was outstanding. It came out on fire, the tempo, the pace, the formation changes, all these different things is really, really good. And so I would anticipate that they're going to do a lot of those same situations and really try and play with a different pace to try and throw Alabama and all this communication off that they like to do on the defensive side. And all you got to do is get up once. You just got to get up and be able to continue to maintain and play with the lead. I think Texas wants to play with the lead, and I assume that defensively they're going to come out pretty aggressive as well.
You already talked a little bit about what you saw from the defense last week, but the safeties and DBs specifically, maybe what did you see in that game and throughout the game that you had to watch?
Well, I thought the communication was done well, and I think that's the most underrated job safeties have is to communicate. You got to get everybody lined up. You're the quarterback of the defense in the back, so you got to continue to do that really well, and they got to make plays on the football. And I thought they did that well, tackling in space, making plays on the football, and then communicating. If you do those things, you're going to be just fine in Alabama's defense because it sets you up for success. We've seen too many really good safeties come out under Nick Saban, and I'm not saying they were all great in the NFL. They're really good in college because the defense allows you to be really good and successful. So just doing your job will be good enough.
Hey, Roman, speaking of safeties, Caleb Downs for Alabama, freshman, phenom, at least he showed well in his first game. What have you seen from him? And maybe talk about Alabama's secondary.
I'm not ready to call him a phenom, but he is a good player. And he has great size. He obviously has really good football instincts. For him to be able to absorb all this playbook and go out there and play as a true freshman for Nick Saban's defense, you get a lot of kudos for that. I like his ability. He's one of the top players in the country last year coming out of high school for a reason. And so at this point, you just want him to stay healthy and continue to trend in the right direction. I would teach him how to do one thing. I always go to the negative because that's all I want to coach up is the negative. The positives, like we hear those all the time. You'll hear that from your uncle. Let's work on the negatives because that's how you get cleaned up. Taking on certain blocks. This is the one thing I saw him do wrong. When he takes on a block, I want you to stay square with the line of scrimmage, be even with the ball carrier. Don't turn your shoulders to the blocker. It naturally widens the hole and gap for the running back. So these are the little things that I would say, hey, Caleb, you still work on these things. Like, you want to be a phenom? Do these things right. So, but I really like for a first game, he's going to be just fine. I've heard from the coaches about how he works and how good he is. And so you just stay on that path, man. Keep your mind right, and everything's going to be just fine.
Coach Sanderson wanted me to ask you about your golf game and your socks tomorrow. You ready for to dress well and play well?
Number one, that's not a question. All those things are good. My golf game was terrible yesterday. I didn't hit 100, though, so I'm fine. I still stayed in the 90s. It was I didn't make a putt over 5 feet. It was rough. And my socks, I got American socks on today because I'm back home. So it's the socks are always right, too. But you tell Wimp, I got it.
I will.
I got it.
Yes, sir.
Is that it?
Thanks, Roman.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Why are we all here?
Jeff Spiegel says hi. Jeff Spiegel. Excuse me. 3340, ABC 3340.
Hey, Darberly, do we know Jeff Spiegel?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We do?
Why isn't he here though?
I
guess he doesn't like you.
I know it.
What'd you do to him?
I don't know.
He's doing his high school show all night.
No, tell him I said hello. He's a great guy. He's the best.
I'll just start with what I said to Roman. As an Alabama guy getting to come back here in this atmosphere under these circumstances, it probably is a little more special than some of the other ones. Can you just talk to the joy that you get coming back here and getting to do the show?
It's a lot of fun, man. Everybody takes great pride in where they went to school. I think it's a little bit different for me than it is for the guys who play, because the people at home, they don't really care where I went to school. So I don't need to, I don't need to represent or, whatever it is. I need to be fair. But I am certainly grateful for the relationships that I had when I was in school here and the relationships that I've had since then and the opportunities that, being here and getting started here afforded me. And it is, bring back a lot of memories, although I must say that this city and this campus are basically unrecognizable outside of the quad from when I was in school here in the 80s.
Do you have any favorite memories coming back here?
None that I can share on television. No, I'm kidding. I was so boring here. Nobody remembers anything. But I made great friends here, great football games. I guess for just a moment. Now remember, my job's to be fair now, but I can say that probably my favorite moment in growing up in college. that's like the greatest thing that ever happened because they beat Notre Dame. So that's probably as good a football memory as I have. And there were some good ones. There was the Van Tiffen kick. There was Rory Turner waxing the dude on the goal line against Auburn. So there were a lot of great memories, but all coming second to Biscuit knocking down Steve Berline and knocking him into next week.
I like it.
Reese, do you feel like Alabama is playing with a different edge this season?
I think they're trying to prove that they're still the bully and the toughest team on the block. The last couple of years, really, they haven't always been able to run the ball effectively when they've needed to, and their whole identity was built on that. I don't know if I can say this on broadcast TV, but the old, early Nick Saban, I think it was pre-LSU, make their ass quit. I don't know that they've had that, to be honest. Not that they haven't been good. They've been elite. Nobody's been better than them. There's never been a dynasty in the history of the sport like this one. Now, Georgia may be on top at the moment, and they are, but overall, long-term dynasty, the sport's never seen anything like this. So you're splitting hairs and picking nits, as it were, but last couple of years, they probably haven't been as overpowering and making the other team afraid to play them or dread playing them the way they maybe have in the past. You get the sense from talking to people around the program and the players that that's what they want to do. And it'll be a huge test to do it against a very, very talented Texas team, a team that Pete Thamel and I were talking this morning. A lot of NFL scouts say that there are more draftable players on Texas roster than on Alabama's at the moment. Now, a lot of that's because a lot of Alabama's guys are young freshmen, but still, that's pretty daunting. So we'll find out where they stand in that regard on Saturday night. It ought to be a great game.
How do you think they match up against Texas this year?
I mean, it's hard to say based on one game, but Texas has a great defensive front. And, that'll be a test for this offensive line, which has sort of, as I talked about a moment ago, trying to impose a physical, nasty attitude that they want to run the ball. And Alabama's secondary, a little banged up, and with Quinn Ewers and his arm talent, hasn't had a lot of success throwing the deep ball. A lot of that's been because of drops, some because of inaccuracy, but they're going to take shots tomorrow night. So I think that's a big matchup as well to see how Alabama matches up in that regard. And the other thing is, obviously, Jalen Milroe, is wildly talented as he is. He's got an opportunity based on his pure talent level to be as good as anybody who's played the position here, especially as a dual threat type of guy. He's got to take care of the ball. And he did a great job of that in the opener and showed a lot of growth from that. So I think those are some of the things to look for Saturday night.
Coach Saban this week talked about knowing Sarkisian and Sarkisian knowing him. How much of an advantage or disadvantage do you guys feel as analysts when Coach plays former assistants?
Sark had a great line the other night about what's the record of the guys who didn't coach for him. Nick's had a lot of success against everybody he's coached against, and I think it goes both ways. There might be a moment when you feel like that I know what he's going to call here, but then sometimes you can outthink yourself because the other guy's going, he knows that I'm wanting to call this. And sometimes I think that gets a little bit overblown because there aren't a lot of secrets anymore. Every single play can be dissected from numerous angles. These coaches and army of analysts that they have at their disposal on both sides and really across college football kind of keep you from having many secrets. So I think in terms of the intangibles, it could play a factor, maybe playing a hunch in a moment or knowing what a guy likes to do, and I'm going to try to get him off balance by taking a shot here. They think I'm going to throw here, I'm going to run it, that kind of stuff. But I don't think there's a psychological hurdle. Sark's been a head coach for a long time, knows what he's doing, and so I don't think there's going to be any intimidation factor. But I do believe, not necessarily exhaustive research, but I believe Sark will be the first guy ever to have led Alabama to a victory over Auburn and then come back into the stadium and try to beat Alabama. Now, I know it went on Nick's record, but Sark was the head coach, the acting head coach, so that's a little bit of trivia for the people. So, I guess. I don't know.
This is a nighttime atmosphere, so the home field factor, does that give Alabama any advantage for this game, you think?
I'm going to sound like Nick a little bit here, if they can handle their anxiety. Sometimes when you have that type of atmosphere and you're so fired up for the game, and most everybody in the stadium is on your side, sometimes you can press a little bit and try a little too hard. If they can manage that, it'll be good. If they can come up with a big play here or there, then we'll find out how Texas handles that. I don't think there's an inherent advantage to it. Probably better to have them on your side than have them against you. But you know, a lot of it will depend on how you play in the early going, because if you can, I think back to the 2019 LSU game when we were here, and LSU made some plays in the first half and sort of seized control of the game. And at that moment, they sort of took advantage. I think not only LSU was a great team, but they also took advantage, I think, of Alabama, you know, maybe trying a little too hard, and then when one thing went wrong, they pressed a little bit. So handling those types of emotions and just playing to your capabilities for both teams is key. But it's better to have them for you than against you, I think.
How much sleep do you get on a Friday night before the show?
Depends on how good a job I did on Thursday and Friday in terms of writing preparation. But generally speaking, even if I'm completely written, which 98% of the weeks I am, I have this fear of like going to sleep too early and leaving something unturned. So I'll kind of go back through everything, go back through my notes. The producer Jim Galliero and I have a ritual that he likes to go to bed early because he's soft. Not kidding. No, he's
You're down the street.
Yeah, he's all, no. Never ever that. Never ever that. He will call. We'll talk like 9:30, 10 o'clock night before. Go through everything one more time. Have we missed anything? What have we got? Probably end up average 5 to 6 hours, something like that.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Clemson and Alabama were trading blows for years, and then Clemson's kind of not had as much success the last couple of years. So you talked about this being a dynasty unlike any other. Where do you think this Alabama program is at, or maybe perceived, having not won a championship the last 2 years?
I mean, think about your question's a good one, but think about it for a second. Haven't won a championship in 2 whole years.
Yeah,
I mean, Texas hasn't won a conference championship since 2009. It's before Georgia's recent run, they hadn't won a national championship in 40 years. Or a little more than that. So Alabama's still at the top of the heap. Now, are they head and shoulders above the way they were along with Clemson? Probably not. But they're still right there. And they've got a deep, talented team, a lot of weapons, a lot of exciting young players who I've said earlier, and people took it as a slight, and I don't mean it that way. Alabama might be a year away from being at their best because of some of the freshmen and sophomores that they have that will just get better with another year of experience. Still really good, still can win it now, but might be a year away.
Obviously, you keep your objectivity, but do you get an extra sense of excitement when you do game day from Tuscaloosa?
I mean, I love being back at a place that's familiar. That's meant a lot to me for sure. And I know this is going to sound like a coach speak or announcer speak answer. It's not. I don't think it helps people at home for me to be extra excited or anything because of where I am. Our job is to bring them college football, the ultimate college football pregame show on a Saturday. It doesn't matter where I went to school. I don't need to let that shine through. It's a quick anecdote, if that's possible for me, which you are all doubting at this point. But after Deshaun Watson hit Hunter Renfrow for the game-winning touchdown, national championship-winning touchdown against Alabama, I had a lot of my friends say to me, "Man, that must have been terrible presenting Dabo with the trophy." And I said, no, it really wasn't at all. A couple of reasons for it. One, you step back and you want to give both sides their due, both fan bases their due, both players and coaches their due. But then the other side of it, because of what we do, we get to know these people as human beings. And I'd been in the bowels of the stadium the previous season and had seen the devastation from Dabo's family when they came up just a little short. So the one thing that happens to you as an alum when you do this job with College Game Day, at least when you're in the host side, because I always say the players should care. If Kirk doesn't care about Ohio State, Desmond doesn't care about Michigan, Pat doesn't care about West Virginia, I don't really know why they're doing this. They all do, and they should. But for me, I need to take a step back from it, and that means when Tua hits Devontae Smith on 2nd and 26, the exhilaration is not what it was. And when Deshaun Watson throws a touchdown pass to beat them, the devastation is not what it was. You kind of go in the middle as opposed to what I was, like what would have happened to me as a 9-year-old, which, that was why I liked the Notre Dame game, because I was really ticked off about the 73 Sugar Bowl. cried in the bathtub because my dad didn't allow crying over football. So I told him midnight on New Year's Eve I need to take a bath, you know. So 8-year-old Reese Davis was in the bathtub. I don't cry in the bathtub over football games anymore.
We're going to do one more for Reese, guys.
Reese, is there something about game day that never gets old for you? All the locations you go to, seeing the setup. What's probably the favorite thing about it for you?
That everything first, it's the best job in television, and I'm blessed to have it, and I'm thrilled every time I get to do it. But the adrenaline that you feel right before we come on the air and right before we do the scene set is awesome. And at any moment that I don't feel that adrenaline surge, it's not nerves, and I don't feel that adrenaline surge, then I'm not doing the job the way it ought to be done. And so far, batting 1,000.
Thanks, Reese.
Thanks, guys.
Fam, what's up? Kyle Henderson. Bama football on YouTube. The college football Super Bowl is here. Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I'm inviting all my friends from the great state of Texas, the Lone Star State, to call in and post your score prediction right now. 205-850-1994. That's the call-in line number. I want you to call in and give me a score prediction for tomorrow's game between Alabama in Texas. I think Alabama favored by 7.5. We'll update that line coming into this game. There's so many storylines. And I was talking with the game day crew this morning as they came to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And if you're just joining the show, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. I was talking to the game day crew, which includes Tim Tebow, Reese Davis, Roman Harper, and, we were talking, Kirk Herbstreit, of course, and we were talking about the college football season and what everybody saw from Alabama and Texas in week one. And the thing with Texas playing Rice and Alabama playing Middle is you saw a small sample size of each of these teams. But now when you go into a game like this, clearly a measuring stick of how good these teams are. Call line is open, 205-850-1994. Call in right now. I want to get your score prediction on this weekend's game. It's a measuring stick. It's an indicator of where these two teams are right now going into week 2 of the college football season. I see you inside the comment box, Stephen Hicks. Thank you for joining us. Dean as well. Dean has it 38-17. That's Alabama 38 and Texas 17. BT has it 42-13. I would assume that is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Again, call line is open, 205-850-1994. Call in. Give me your score prediction. Let's get this thing going. I was downtown. I was at BRYANT-DENNY Stadium just about 45 minutes ago. It's on fire. People everywhere. College game day crew, like they're not showing up tomorrow. They're already there today. You had Pat McAfee. You had Coach Saban together. Goat on goat doing their thing. Pat McAfee in town. Everybody's in town for the biggest game in college football, and rightfully so. People want to see if this Texas team is for real. And we want to see if this Alabama team is for real. Now, Reese Davis had some pretty good points during our availability today. And he said that, look, people, Alabama is still clearly dominant. But are they that team that still can make people quit, right? Make their ass quit. Is it still that type of team? Is it still that type of dynasty, so to speak? And granted, Georgia has it right now going on. They've won the last 2. We got our first caller in the call queue. Call line is 205-850-1994. But before that, how far do we have to go back before Georgia won a national title? What was it, like 40 years or something like that? So yeah, Georgia red hot right now. But I mean, clearly Alabama is still up there with the college football elite. People feel that they can punch at Alabama's weight now. And we're about to find out on Saturday if Texas has arrived under Steve Sarkisian. Big fan of Steve Sarkisian. What he's done with himself, with the brand of Texas. They're coming into Tuscaloosa, Alabama, more than a touchdown underdog. But if you look to the past, teams that have come into Alabama that can throw the football effectively, have challenged Alabama, have beaten Alabama, can win yours, be that guy to beat Alabama at BRYANT-DENNY Stadium tomorrow night. We're about to find out. And still a little bit more than 24 hours before kick. But tomorrow night at 6 p.m., everybody's going to be watching Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We got an 859 in the call queue, and we'll start right now. Hey, thanks for calling in. Who am I on the line with and where are you calling in from?
Kyle, can you hear me okay, buddy?
Yeah, I can hear you great, man.
Okay, awesome. It's connected to the truck, so I wanted to make sure I wasn't sounding weird on
No.
your show.
You're good, man.
My name's Jack. I'm from Lexington, Kentucky. I called in to you about 2 weeks ago, and
Yeah.
I'm the hype man. I get everybody up and going about Bama football. But first, I want to start off by saying my dad passed away Monday, and he is who indoctrinated me into this love for this sport and specifically for Alabama. And I really wish he was here just to be able to see this game. But anyhow, I got a couple quick things, Kyle, and then I'll get off. I'd like to hear your opinion on stuff. I'm gonna go hype though. Again, I love it. I live for it. I'm one of those fans. But I called in a couple weeks ago, right before the MTSU game, and I said that was the warm-up game. And I said that Jalen Milroe was going to come out and ball, and that he was a much better quarterback than people were giving him credit for. And I'm happy for him as a person that's exactly how it played out. All right. Texas is coming to play. I'm more in agreement with you on it being a tighter game. However, our defense, man, those edge rushers, Dallas, all those guys, they're coming, dude. Like, they're hungry. They remember last year, Milroe, that confidence from that MTSU game, I feel like it's going to carry over. The game's important to him because of the connection with Texas. I get it. Our DBs, I feel like, have to be huge and are going to be huge. And I agree with you, what you said the other day on your show. Dude, let an interception take place or one of those massive sacks happen. And I'm not saying for him to get hurt, but Ewers just get laid out. That stadium's going to erupt, and it's not going to stop. Quick thing, too, LSU, yeah, well, they were going to win the West, right? And I know I'm not looking forward. I'm just saying I like talking trash. It's healthy. But I love how you say you're there in Tuscaloosa and you're living and breathing it with these people. You're not in New York in some desk talking all this air about stuff that you're not a part of. And that's why I love your show, man. I love avid listener. And then, last point, you talked the other day about this game being huge, like for Texas. If they win, they're back for 5 years now, but it will in all tonight. It puts in Tuscaloosa is back. They have all. Saban has not lost his edge, and great test because, man, like it's going to let this team feel pain, strength. The effort is going to bring. It's good. Like, it's good for this team. It's good for all these young players. Caleb Downs. Like, I'm super excited to see how he is and how he reacts to these things, because this is the level. This is why he came to Bama, is to be tested by teams like this. So I'm excited, man. I'll quit on that note. I had some other stuff I was going to go into, but it doesn't matter. We'll do it 1 week at a time. But love your show. I'm super happy for you. When I get off of here, I'll add a super chat in to help with your help with the information and the content you put out is leaps and bounds above, these big time news networks. And I'm not knocking them. It's just you're organic, man. And that's a hard thing to find these days. You can get on here and find 200 shows that, oh, well, LSU is going to win the West and Alabama, well, we don't know. And you're there. You're talking to these players and listening to Saban, and it's refreshing, man. So have a great day. I hope this show's awesome for you. I hope I started it out on a good note. Bama, I'm picking them. I'm the comment in the chat at the bottom. I'm picking them 28-10. I think it'll the third quarter is going to be the flip around where it's pretty much we put the stranglehold on. So love you, man. Take care.
All right, take it easy, Jack. Thank you very much for calling from Lexington and get the party started. We got a 256 and an 832 inside the comment box. First of all, hey, Jack, I know you're listening on the other side, man. We appreciate your support, but most importantly, prayers your way for your father. I can only imagine the emotions that you're going through following such, a loss in your life. But I think, sometimes when things like that happen to us and, we've all dealt personal blows in our life, sometimes the perspective about it, is the way to reframe that and to think about the good times. And you guys said that he's a huge Alabama fan, reflect on those times. And, I'm definitely praying for you. And my heart goes out to you and your family as you go into this weekend's game. So Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe, 205-850-1994. I'm inviting all my Texas friends to call in today to post their score prediction between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Texas Longhorns. We got a 256, an 832, and a 720. We'll get to you all right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Hey, David, thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. We already got a 20 spot in. Let's continue to bump that up. We really appreciate all the support right here on Bama Football on YouTube. We go back to the phone lines, and we got 256, and let's get it right now. Hey, thank you very much for calling. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
This is Jason from Priceville, Alabama.
Thank you very much for calling in this beautiful afternoon. I'm telling you, just like Jack was saying, I'm in Tuscaloosa, and it was beautiful today out at the quad, walked around college game day. The atmosphere is just like, where would you rather want to be? And here we sit one day away from what I'm calling the early season college football Super Bowl. Thank you for joining us on the show. Take it away.
Hey, guy, it seems like people forgot that Bama had 15 penalties in that game last year, and the only reason the game was even close is because of Bama mistakes. Texas didn't have anything for Bama last year if Bama plays a clean game. Just a B plus, B minus game. Mm-hmm. They blow Texas out. And that's something I think our defense is going to be way, way better this year. I think we got a better inside game with some mature players on the inside of the D-line. And Milroe's going to be the difference maker, man. If they do get penetration on the line, he's going to break out and they're going to lose containment and he's going to take it for 70, I just don't think Texas is ready for what's coming tomorrow night. They think they are, but in a clean game, it's over by the second drive of the third quarter. I mean, we're putting in, Simpson or Buckner and 5 deep down the wide receiver line and offensive line by the second drive of the third quarter.
On with Jason from Priceville. Really appreciate you calling in today. We got a super chat coming in from the great Alan. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Jack from Kentucky says, love you, my man. Keep up the good work. Hey, back to you, man. We really appreciate the support. And again, prayers out to your father. On the line with Jason from Priceville. Jason, I think the fact, and talking with the College Game Day crew, and I specifically asked Tim Tebow and Roman Harper on Alabama's offense and what they saw in that small sample size in week 1. And, clearly each of those comments started out with the play of Jalen Milroe. And I think it captivated a lot of people's attention that he could throw the deep ball. And I think that is scary for the world of college football if he does that again in week 2. If Jalen Milroe comes in and he has a successful game throwing deep balls downfield, and he's just overall successful, short intermediate passes, doing his thing with his legs, the world of college football is going to be terrified of this Alabama offense because Jalen Milroe, if his deep ball is locked in, he might be the best quarterback in college football, period. And that's a huge statement. He has a huge opportunity to prove it. And you're right. I mean, they have the weapons on the offensive side of the ball to really separate themselves, not only from Texas, but from any team. I mean, you kind of look at the past recruiting classes. These guys don't have a lot of experience. They haven't been in the limelight, but there's enough talent to go around and to make you miss. And you got some really impactful weapons at the tight end room that I want everybody to watch tomorrow night. Amari Niblack, Danny Lewis, CJ Dupree. How is Coach Tommy Rees going to utilize those tight ends, be creative to get the football to some of those guys in some open space? I think we got a small taste of it, seeing Amari Niblack catch a long touchdown pass. And, you're right. I mean, this team is built very dangerous, and I don't think that we've seen any of the peak. And I think there was a caller the other night who brought this up. We didn't really see Malik Benson or Ja'Cory Brooks do much. Ja'Cory Brooks didn't play the first half of that last game, and Malik Benson, they didn't really even go to him. He's supposed to be that next guy that can be that right out, so to speak. So I don't think we've even seen what Alabama really has coming. Go ahead, Jason, make another point.
I think something that is going to be, we're going to use Knobloch. I mean, we're going to use him big time. He's going to be a weapon. We just didn't show that. What you saw at the end of that game last week where they hit a few deep balls, that was just them making sure they could still do that. They could have did that the whole game, my friend. They just didn't. And I think Jam Miller, I think he's going to make a statement tomorrow night. I think when we broke Florida State a few years back, that's what's going to happen to Texas tomorrow night. We're going to break Texas, and it's going to be over. I mean, you're going to see there's going to be faces as long as pie sheets, my man. You watch and see. We're going to break Texas tomorrow night.
You got a score prediction for me, Jason?
Yeah, I think it's going to be probably 45-17, somewhere in there.
45-17.
But right. I think it's going to be a hard 45. Like, I think we're going to drive the ball down their throat for 3 quarters, and they're going to finally give it up and tap out, But the first 3 quarters, it's going to be, they're going to really see what it's like to play big-time SEC football tomorrow night.
Yeah, you're coming in. Yeah, this is, and like we've talked about this week, even Coach Sark was asked this on Mondays about the measuring stick, his program. Last year, we kind of got a sample size, but another opportunity. Hey, you're coming down to Bryant-Denny Stadium. You have a little bit more experience playing against that type of caliber since you did it last year, coming in to a hostile environment where you were one time the head football coach when Alabama played Auburn and got the dub. So let's see what he can continue to do with that Texas team. Hey, Jason, I'm going to move to my next caller. I appreciate your input today. Love the big score, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, Kyle, love your show, man. Keep on going, buddy. Keep your head up, and everybody get ready for tomorrow night. It's on Roll Tide.
All right, Roll Tide to you, Jason. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We got an 832, a 720, and a 334 inside the comment box. Appreciate the super chats early on. Thank you very much. We got a new member inside the house, Becky Lee. Hit the join button underneath any video. David hit us with the 20 spot early on, and that was Jack from Kentucky with the 50 spot. So we really appreciate all the support right here on Bama Football on YouTube. We will go back to the phone lines in just 1 second. I want to encourage you guys to hit the thumbs up. We have 110 watching. Let's get 110 thumbs up right here in the comment box. I'm telling you, the quad in Tuscaloosa on fire. The whole downtown, you couldn't even drive around. I mean, people are everywhere. It's beautiful weather. Certainly if you can't go to the game, come enjoy the tailgate because that's going to be the place to be tomorrow in the whole state of Alabama. 832, let's get it right now. Hey, thanks for calling. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who I'm on the line with and where are you calling in from?
My name is Mike, and I'm from Austin, Texas.
Mike from Austin, thank you so much for calling. It's here. We've spoken about this game before. It's finally here. What's your take as we're almost 24 hours away from kickoff?
Well, my take is this. I think Alabama's going to win by 10 or 14 points. Pretty comfortable win. That's my prediction. But with that being said, I think the only path to victory for the Texas Longhorns is they have to do 2 things. One, they got to stop Alabama's running game because if they can stop Alabama's running game and put it solely on Milroe's arm, they might have a chance to win. Now, we all know Milroe, I think he has a good arm. He's proven a lot here lately, but that's their only chance to win is stopping the run and putting it on Milroe to pass the ball. That, and the only other chance to win is how it takes to beat Alabama. The team has to have a quarterback, the opposing team like Texas, whoever, their quarterback has to be the superstar for the day. He's got to be Tom Brady clone for the day. That's how you beat Alabama. These Johnny Manziels, whatever, that's what it takes to beat Alabama, superstar play from the other team. So if they can do that, if they can stop Alabama's running game, And if Quinn Ewers has the game of his life, then they have a chance to win. Cause, with that being said, Kyle, just like that previous caller said, Bama's going to break Texas. And there's some truth to that. This is why, because last time Bama played Texas, the Colt McCoy game, they broke Colt McCoy. They broke Texas Longhorns. Texas that was 2009, I believe. They haven't done nothing since. They haven't been to the playoffs. They've been through 3 coaches. They haven't even won the Big 12 since. So they broke Texas in that championship game, and there's a good chance they break them again, my man.
You know what is interesting about Jason bringing up with the breaking Florida State? He's absolutely right, because that game, remember, we all went down. I was there. I drove to Atlanta, and I even stopped with the War Chant crew who's down in Tallahassee, and I hung out in their studio. And then we went to Atlanta, and they broke the program, right? Like, you saw like the chain of events that happened after that game. We just crashed. Now Florida State back on the rise. I don't know, Texas, they have some momentum coming into the SEC, something you come in and really can put it to a early season loss like this by a large margin can 100% with that you lose early because you can make it up. And if you look to the back end of this has a lot of train Iowa State, Texas Tech. I said before, this team has an ability to potentially make the college. It's Tuscaloosa 100%, but even in that game, they that they could table in the Big 12. I think they, Texas fans. No, I Coach Saban. I think he's as good interior defensive lineman. He's been saying that Xavier Worthy is. So those are some problems, and I know that his best performance week 1 in the deep ball, but just like Coach Son said right here on YouTube, like it damage. So I believe in the Alabama team, and I picked Alabama to win this game. I think it's going to be, but I think an early game. up? Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. The College Football Super Bowl is here.
And Alabama's offense in week one. Small sample size, but
Yeah, I really loved his performance.
Path to victory for the Texas Longhorns is they have to do two things. One, they got to stop Alabama's running game, because if they can stop Alabama's running game and put it solely on Milroe's arm, they might to win. Now, we all know Mickey has a good, but that's their only chance to win, is stopping the run and putting it the power. That and that Tech, and there's some truth to that, because last time Bama played Texas, the Colt McCoy, they and